Hi, and welcome to the Holistic Hub with Marie and Martine, a welcoming, nurturing, and soul supporting environment of all things spiritual, energy, and alternative. Our intention is to freely and lovingly share the personal truths, stories, or wisdoms we've gained, hopefully offering any guidance, new perspective, or light bulb moment that you may wish to take away to assist you through your navigation of the journey out of 3D, through 4D, and toward 5D and beyond. Hi everybody, and welcome to the Hub, episode 15. Am I right?
I think so.
I didn't actually check, but I think it was 14 I uploaded last time, so it must be 15. But anyway, a number's a number. Welcome. And on this very auspicious date of New Year's Eve, 31st of the 12th, 2022, we are seeing the completion, the end, the release into 23. Hi, Martine. How are you?
Hey, Marie. Yes, well, Marie and I have just had a brief catch up because we probably haven't spoken in depth since before Christmas, really, have we?
It's been a while. Look at the light just come on in my room.
Yeah, it did. But I do feel like it's been a big time for all again, and whether or not they've been doing that consciously or unconsciously, it's again, here we go, bigger than ever.
Big times.
Yeah. And so Marie and I were just discussing our own journeys in the last week and what we've rebirthed within ourselves, what we're looking at through new eyes. And Marie came through to me a few days ago and said, you know, when we do the hub in a couple of days, do you want to chat about what you don't want to bring through into 2023, what you do want to bring through into 2023, i.e. what we're wanting to let go of, what we're wanting to bring through as frequencies, as energies, as and that was how we just concluded our statement. So to share our conclusion, we were both chatting about how at times we've both had to teach from lower frequencies or gather momentum and move into those lower frequencies to gather it all up. And I was sharing my end of it, where I'm like, I don't want to do that next year. I don't want to have to go into a lower frequency to come from that. And so I'm open to however that ends up occurring. But what in reflection has been something that's happened to me is because I'm still a human, so therefore I still contain the ego, is I'm really clearly seeing that if I do have to lower my vibration at all to gather to be with people in that space, it can be a bit of a hook. So sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a hard slog to get out of that, and that's not what I'm resonating with at the moment. So Marie and I were also discussing that we're both on the same page presently in the Course in Miracles, which I think is really hilarious. And
literally.
it's literally about, bringing in the miracles. And I've been already starting my journal. This one was given to me by a lovely client. And I wrote a little excerpt around miracles today. I might actually share with you. Is that all right, Marie?
Yeah, of course.
So this is from, I think it's teaching 78 in the Course in Miracles. And these are just little excerpts of what I felt like I needed to just write down to solidify. Writing down things really solidifies things. Today, I claim the miracles which are my right. I have been promised full release from the world I made. The kingdom of God is within me and can never be lost. I shall not content myself with less. Love that. I am entitled to miracles. I will not trade miracles for grievances. I want only what belongs to me. God has established miracles as my right. And I feel like that is like the end statement of my year and what I'm bringing forward. But back over to you, Marie. Let's just begin our little podcast.
Okay, well, absolutely, and it's true. I've been doing the same Course in Miracles, just pulled it randomly, went to those pages and worked through grievance and into miracles as well, which is quite funny. But perfect. But I was just saying to Martine too, I've actually just been prompted and did a quick channeling of a mantra for 23 to take us across the threshold. And I said I would do it on here, but I actually wrote it so fast and it was coming through that I can't really read what I've written properly yet. So I'll have to just go and transcribe, but I will put it either here or it'll be on my Love Light Alchemy pages for anyone to utilize. But I think it's almost in a very similar sense to what you just spoke of, what the download just sort of came as. So yeah, just keep an ear if you're interested for that and an eye out. But it feels quite powerful as it came through too. But yeah, it's always an interesting time. I feel this time of year, and a funny thing my husband said to me, there was something that I happened to mention to him about something that I intended or wished to do next year, or how, I don't know, I can't exactly remember what it was. But he said to me, you know, and I think this goes for everybody at this time of year, he said, oh, is that your resolution for 23? And I said, I don't have resolutions for 23. I don't have resolutions, full stop. And he went, oh, well, it sounded like one. I said, no, I choose the word intention. I choose to place into the universe right now what I'm feeling, right now the potentials, the possibilities, the feelings, the thoughts, the inspiration moments, whatever's coming through my being, that's what I'm just projecting as a possibility for next year. My gut feeling is that I know it's going to be different. My gut feeling is that I know I'm going to work different, and I don't know how that is. I don't know who that will be with, what that will present as. Again, here we go into our levels of trust as we move across the threshold. And I think 23 is going to be a huge year of trusting even more so in ourselves and in the unseen of our great metaphysical team. You know, I feel that while we can look, I feel we'll sort of discuss today a couple of things from the physical too, because I've noticed how I'm just changing again in my physical, how I'm changing in my diet again. And again, things that I'm not eating now, I don't want to be part of that frequency. They're not coming with me into the new year. I was out to dinner with friends last night and they were quite surprised at what I'm not drinking coffee, and I've just stopped doing this, and I'm not drinking really alcohol anymore. Not that I was ever a big drinker, but I'm not taking on sugars. I can just feel in the lead up of this week, and particularly through Christmas with sugar in particular, how it gave me such an alcohol, what I remember as an alcohol heavy feeling, in like not a hangover because I don't drink enough, but that feeling of dullness, of flatness, of retardation of my frequencies. And then it was the realization, well, it wasn't the alcohol. So what is it? Well, it was the sugar, because they were the foods that I'm not used to eating, that we indulge in throughout Christmas. But what a great teaching that was, because I could clearly see for myself how I've been when I don't have that, which is usually through my year. It's very minimal anyway. But to have that influx again, and wow, the difference in my beingness and my clarity and my body, that was like, no, I choose not now. You know, it's really for me, and maybe for many of us, and I think you said the same, just we're into that heightened state now of more so the definitive nature of yes or no. That yes, it's a yes for us to take across, no, it's not going. It can't simply go. It's not serving me. It's not working for us any longer. Let's leave that behind. And just that knowing where ego may creep in to go, oh, what if, hang on, oh, should I, shouldn't I? You know, that doubt that might come through about what that means. It might be a big release for you. It might be a little release, and anywhere in between. But doubt will always usually present as your test, as your part of consciousness that you've aligned to in the past. But we're at that real testing time now of do we or don't we? And I think this is a big year of us really stepping up into no, to setting our boundaries even more, to honoring ourselves even more. And I feel that honoring space comes from the accelerated remembrance and the integration and the acceleration of the codes and the grace and the beauty that is the divine feminine that's rising through each and every one of us now. And she's coming well into her power in 23. She will be rising through each of us in men and women and children. And as she rises, there will be much that must be destroyed. There will be much that must be let go, because the old things that weren't of her wonderful quintessent nature must go. They simply cannot and will not align. So this is part of the release that I think we've all been purging again. We've all been pushed towards, we've had to reflect upon, we've been confronted or challenged by, and certainly again since the new moon of the 23rd, and I know that's been for me. And I was just saying to Martine, mine I personally won't share. It's a very personal journey, but it's huge in so many dimensions. It's absolutely huge between myself and my husband in a most positive soul expansion connection sense, and the release of such pain and karma and old wounds and old bleed throughs from the ancient of days that I, in particular, and I know now how much he's worked through on his level, but which I have truly had to let go, which I chose to. And when I make those statements, as I just said, we put them out there, and I asked for that guidance and that assistance to assist me to open my heart, to really move into my true heart essence and divine purpose for 23. And it came instantly. And of course, with that rose the challenge of being courageous to walk through the deep fear and the deep ancestral patterns that were in my cells that were then rising, to choose to confront them and to move through them and speak my truth. But as we always say, you know, I can still remember that morning, and it was only yesterday morning, early hours of lying in bed, doing this until I thought, what are you doing? Here you are again. You know, this is what you've asked for. They've answered you so quickly. This is in divine accord. Fear nothing, jump and see what miracle is on offer. And the miracle came. The miracle presents itself, as Martine said earlier, because the miracle's always there. You know, this is the biggest thing about us when we're stepping through our stuff, that ego will keep you in the hole of fear, challenge you. And this is its great teaching too. It's not a negative that we want to get rid of. Ego has such a role for us that when we embrace it and look at it, it's challenging us to step up. It's challenging us to confront it, to discover what's on the other side of that consciousness, because there is always something equally available. Where ego is, the miracle lies. You know, where the pain is, the miracle lies. The joy is available. Where the suffering is, so is the freedom, the liberty, the liberation. You know, everything is available now. And it's whether we believe that, and it's whether we dare to try to understand that and to challenge ourselves to see what that means for us and how that presents. But the reality of the truth, and when I speak reality, that is what is truth. The reality is the God sense, the higher sense, the light sense, the love sense. When we walk through and jump the hurdles of fear, anywhere in between, we always gain. We will always reclaim a part of our wisdom, our beingness, our isness, but we will see the miracle that presents of, wow, what was I waiting for? What was I holding myself up for? What wouldn't I let myself jump toward this for? Why was I stopping myself? And simply it's because you knew the old better. You've held on to the old for so long, it's become such a partner and ally to you. And to remember who you really are is the long forgotten part. So this is the challenge that, and we fear that because this is where our power is. And that in itself brings up our fear. But if we can just keep moving towards it, and 23, I believe, it's going to be a real juxtaposition of a year. I really believe this for many. Sorry, Martine, I know I'm rambling here a bit, but I'll just let this go. Because, you know, in this divine feminine movement, coming with the beautiful divine feminine is the other goddess, Kali. And I can see her in the wings here. And Kali is all powerful, and she is all ready to destroy and destruct and clear and rid of all that does not serve the new paradigm, the new earth, the newness of you. So as we know, when we jump, things must crumble, things must fall away.
And I think the question that we have to look at is in that movement forward in this particular time is to ask ourselves, why do I want to take that old part of me forward? Why do I want to hold on to that part that I know may not be serving me, and it's not making me happy, and it's not making me joyous? Why do I keep holding on? Because until you really truly know that within yourself, it can't change. And we can talk about lots and lots, and they'll say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to let that go, I'm going to let that go. They can just merely be words until we really feel them out and we feel the depth of the truth that they hold within us. And no true change can come until we acknowledge the depth of what that is and how much we may need to release, how much we may need to be truthful to ourselves in order to truly move away from that old vibration. Thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely just comes back down to that basic base chakra feeling of trust as well. You know, when we step outside the trust of just ourselves, when I step away from that, I have to trust in me, I have to trust in my journey, and I surrender and I trust in the greater journey, in my connection to God, in God, it changes it again on such a massive level, because these base chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus fears that lie within me are the things that really keep me rooted and sunk in those old ways of doing things, in those old safe ways of doing things. You know, I still feel that control come up or attempt to come up. And for me, whenever I sort of catch myself trying to control any situation, I know deep in my heart that I'm not trusting in God right now. The end. It's as simple as that for me these days. But like Marie said, you know, to come out the other side is often the reflection time. That's when you really get to reflect. And so there's been so many big journeys for me in the last few weeks. And, you know, there's been one that's been coming to like a completion as my daughter comes into her 9th year. So she'll be 9 next year. You know, she's transitioning, she's moving. And as she's transitioned and moved, she's continued to raise in me that transition too. So I've had to then come up to meet her. And that has really raised so many things in me in the last few months. And then the crescendo came into this place of, oh, that's right. Like, you know, my control really forces a condemning with it. It's condemning that if I need to control, it's me assuming that my way, my human way, is the only way. And that's never the case. Because again, when I look at it from God's source and through the teachings of Course in Miracles, I truly understand that, you know, God does not need to forgive, because there is no forgiveness with God, because there is no condemn. Like, God does not condemn, therefore God cannot forgive. There, like the two polarities cease to exist. It still comes back down to this ceasing to exist in my world of duality. You know, the more that I come out the other side of these massive transitions, the more that I'm truly realizing that duality is an alignment that I don't want to align to anymore. And whatever comes up as a result of that is in those teachings. And I remember saying to the Silver of the Moon last year, I think that was ultimately one of my biggest questions last year, is teach me about like the duality, really allow me to understand where duality still is on our planet. And I really do feel like I see it in so many ways in which we consistently just live to distract and live to, you know, even from coming from this male, female, masculine, feminine, all of these aspects to me still feel like they're coming from this place of duality.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, and that's what duality is, you know, because when we truly move into the heightened states and even beyond 5D, we're neither. We're without gender, you know, it doesn't exist because we're so complementary, we're so aligned, we're so in alignment that we aren't split to differentiate the energies, the frequencies in any polarity. It just is. And that's when we're at one. And we've still got obviously a long way to go. But yeah, I absolutely hear it. And it's interesting because I know I'd like to kind of bring it into probably a more physical aspect too for people. Because I kind of see 23, as I said earlier, this very different year, and it's going to be a big year for many people. Those that I feel that are really awake, there'll be further more expansion to the soul and that higher level of moving into your divine path, really stepping up into the new skills, into new ways of doing things. There's going to be a challenge within that from the dualistic sense for many workers, I feel, of the spiritual path, because there's still many who are holding on to the old ways, the old frequencies of doing things. And they just can't work in these new frequencies. We just have to keep adapting. We have to keep changing. We have to keep growing with the frequency. We're going to see the next wave who are, you know, slightly awaken even more. So they're going to be seeking more guidance. They're going to be seeking more assistance and maybe stepping right into their soul mission and path and going for it and into their leadership capacities. But we're going to be seeing the next wave of those that may be sitting on the fence or those that haven't been sitting on the fence. There will be a huge awakening coming. There's just no doubts about this. It's time. We just had this incredible 7 planetary alignment taking place, not in any coincidence that we're moving into the 7th cycle and the 7th age. So this is all about the spirituality of people coming front and center. So this will be in everybody's soul matrix. Everybody, regardless, they will have a spiritual awakening of some level in this coming year. So that's going to be huge, because this is going to be a massive wake up to many people of what's been taking place, whatever comes and how it comes and when it comes, of the truth in disclosures, that they will be completely thrown. They'll be very confused. It will be denial. It will be a whole range of stuff that when things start to crumble, or in that beautiful Kali energy when she starts to destroy within their own personal world or without them. This will bring some confusion of chaos. And so again, those that are awakened must step into their roles accordingly as to be the guides and the beacons of light to assist all. So I see that absolutely for 23. But in saying that, you know, on our personal level, in that shift across and what not to take again, there's a real clarity I got that I'd like to put out there, and take it or leave it, let it trigger you, whatever be. But the one thing to be aware of in your being for this new year, this movement now, and the question I feel to ask yourself is, where am I not walking my talk? Where am I not following through with what I say, what I might be teaching, what I speak? What am I not doing to delving a little bit deeper to the self, where fear is preventing you in that movement? So what does that mean? So it might be, for an example, a family member, and this isn't my personal story, I'm just clutching at straws here. A family member who you may feel needs assistance, who you see is in a very unwell state of being, an unhealthy state of being. And, you know, you may be talking about them. You may be concerned for them. You may be seeing what they should be doing, how unwell they, you know, things that could potentially be coming for them. And then, you know, if you're saying this is what they should be doing, shoulds again, but there's a part of you that's blocking you in saying that, then just that saying, not even in the action of doing or speaking, but coming back to the self to saying, well, what prevents me speaking my truth from love? And love can be tough love at times. You know, it might be that you're not meant to speak, and it might be that you are meant to speak. And if you are meant to speak, but you hesitate and you just say, oh, well, look, I hope it doesn't happen to them. You've got to ask yourself, if you're feeling like you are being impulsed to speak, what stops me doing that? And I always find it interesting that in any, whatever presentation this may be, how fear is not recognized in that sentence of why you do not take action at times. Because, you know, it might be the excuse, oh, well, you know, they won't want to hear me, or that's not going to happen. Let's get past that outer aspect. What is it that stops you speaking? What is it that stops you moving forward? If you know in your heart is impulsing you to speak, to do, to say anything, what stops you doing that? And it's always fear. And I think we need to look at what excuses we keep giving ourselves, what words we keep telling ourselves that just take the little, soften the edges of fear to make it more palatable for us. And I think we need to go a bit deeper for that. I think we also need to look deep within ourselves of where we're contradictory, where we're not in alignment to us, and that same, am I walking my talk, that we say one thing, but we do the other. So we have to step up even more so into that consciousness for the self to really move forward, because you have to own the truth of yourself before you can change. We can't use words anymore. And so that might even just be in the presentation of where, you know, and again, whether this triggers you or not, please, right, don't mind. Also happy to talk about it. But I think this is the example that came to my mind, where you might be speaking all about the healthness and wellness of chakras, and, you know, believing in the chakras. You may be teaching the chakras, you may be reading about the chakras and the importance of the chakras. And then, you know, and how then you may have a family history of breast cancer. And yet you're doing much work on yourself in that belief structure, but you're doing a mammogram every year. So this is the contradictory pattern that you're walking. That as you step up in the power of your belief about what you know to be your truth, your reality of truth, your heightened state of how energy is, your soul is, you first and foremost, physical a second, that you can't walk two paths anymore. So if you're saying, I believe in this, but you're still reverting to fear-based practice, you're not in alignment to what you are espousing to be. So I feel that bringing into the self about what am I really saying and where am I not in alignment with me, not with anybody else, and not even with God, you are God, but in alignment to you. Because if you aren't following through or daring to see what that means for you, and you don't even, if you want to continue in that path, that's fine, but we must own the walk we're taking. So either way, there's no wrong or right. But if we're crossing paths and we're saying one thing and doing another and vice versa, we're really in a scattered frequency and a scattered vibration, which isn't taking us in any direction that's going to serve us. So this is the message I feel that Spirit's giving me for everyone to really seriously look at. And they kept saying the word contradictory energies. To see where you're not being honest to you and where you're not following through and daring to trust again. Here's that word. We can't go anywhere without trust, but not even just trusting in God. God is us. God is always there. Whatever name you want to give it, it doesn't matter. But this is about trusting in us, trusting in what we're learning, trusting in what we're believing in, trusting in what we're hearing, trusting in what we're choosing to take on board for ourselves. Because if we're not being honest to that, then what are we doing? You know, truthfully, what are we doing? And that's fine again, but please don't expect the great changes if you're not following through on your own words and your own choices, because that's what it's all about. You know, this is your ultimate test. Do I believe in me? Do I trust in me? Do I trust in my intuition? Do I trust in my knowing? Discerning all our information, trusting what feels right, and we will grow and expand on that. And, you know, you'll take your knowledge, you'll take whatever it is from wherever and whatever source, that's fabulous. But what I can tell you as I go further and deeper in this path of the self is that the deeper I feel and the closer I get to my higher self, to my mighty I am presence, and to source itself and beloved Sophia, is the less I need to understand. And the more I just need to have the faith and trust. It's like I don't need to know anything anymore. I just need to keep listening and feeling, and that's all I need to do. Because if I believe in that, then that's going to take me all the way, and words won't. You know, we need them. We need these informations to our discernment, and particularly as you're starting your path. But what I'm just saying is the further you go and the more into your heart space and into yourself you trust, the less you need to know, because you know it all in truth. The highest point of truth, you are it all. You know everything and every answer you hold. And the journey is, do I trust to discover that within myself and believe in that again and dare to walk in its truth again? And that's the future from 23 on.
Yep. And again, it does come a lot down to how we control and then how we project. So those triggers happen less and less the more that we obviously have the time and the space to trust and listen to ourselves. But it's not always possible for many people because they're still living in lives that they haven't quite aligned, you know, and been and created space and time. So as you're journeying through creating this space and time for yourself to be able to be more reflective, to be able to come back into your center, it's simply just around looking at where you're still also that contradiction with that Marie was talking about, where you're still trying to control any situation and where then you're still projecting it out into the world, onto others, into situations, into things. And again, just taking it really simply, my favorite thing to do about it is journal about it. If I ever get triggered by anything, in order for me to break down the trigger, I just start writing about it. I just start writing what's come up for me around that. And you know, it's not, you never usually find anything new. It's never a new thing. It's usually, oh, I'm aligning to that again. Oh, I'm aligning to this again. You know, like Marie said, oh, I'm aligning to the shoulds. I probably should do that. You know, again, think about when I was sitting there here having a very blissful Christmas day, there was a part of me that was having a moment of feeling into all the people who were in situations that they felt like they should be in.
Yeah.
and just that the energy of that feels for me very stifling. It feels really constrictive, and it feels almost as if you know, again, this way of it choosing to how you are in any given moment. I don't like to even use the word how you spend your time, but more or less it is about like how you moving through each and every given moment is creating, you know, the future that you are tomorrow. So whatever you're aligning to, you're then continuing to co-create with yourself in that alignment. And we're not always on point with being able to align to the highest frequency that's there. But again, if we aspire to, and if you don't feel like you can trust in yourself in that any given moment, then simply look up and trust in God. So just hand that over to God. And I went on a really cool journey again, like as a parent, where I've really now completely surrendered the fact that I'm a parent. I no longer align with the archetype of parenthood because for me it was just so limiting. It put so many pressures and boundaries on how I can be, and it solidified my daughter as an object that I have the right to control, which I don't, you know. And so by me pulling that archetype out, I saw how the breathing space between us expanded completely. And, you know, I kind of just resided. I was talking to a friend about it, and I was kind of, the way that I could word it was, I think I'm just going to view her as like a flatmate for the next 10 years, however long she's with me. And we're just going to learn to you know, coexist together while I allow her the grace of being her and continuing to get to know who she is. And, you know, I'll still be
To
guided
guide her.
by her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like these are the words that I more want to use there. And I'll still be support and all of those things, you know, like I think that this season has very much sparked lots of conversations for us, like every season does. But we got into a massive one around, you know, as we move into 2023, what is 2023? How was 2023 even like a number that could exist in the first place? So I had to go back and explain BC and AD. And then she's asking me the question, well, why do we revolve it all around Jesus? And, you know, and then she was like, I can't help but share my views on that, which are, you know, well, I don't know. And she's like, so you don't agree with it? And I'm like, well, you know, Jesus is an amazing ascended master who embodied so much for like the time that he spent on planet Earth, in the time that he spent on planet Earth. But is that the only ascended master that I value and love and adore? No. So these are some conversations that, you know, we naturally have. And it's so interesting to then be able to have the privilege to just hear how she responds to that and to share my thoughts more from a place, more and more from a place, because I feel like I've always tried to share my thoughts of, remember, these are my thoughts and they could change. They're entitled to change. Don't take them on as yours. Sit there and feel into what feels right for you.
Yeah. No, it's definitely that period of time. And going back to what I said about the awakening of many, I mean, I've just seen it in my own immediate family, how two have come on instantly into their own and this huge awakening moment. And it's just their time, their soul is ready. And it was just so beautiful to sit back and watch and to be a part of with my youngest. How she came to me and not me, you know, as the mother or the spiritual guide or teacher to say, oh, you know, this is time. Have you thought about it? But to allow everyone their moment, their grace, their time, and everything's always in divine time, regardless of how it presents. And yeah, she said to me, you know, and I said to her, feel this out, that you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it, or that it's something to do, but to really feel it from here that you're ready and willing. And of course, I'm here to support that and nurture that. And she said, no, I'm ready. I want to do this. I said, fine. So we had a lovely session on the table, and she just received and her wisdom and probably like, you know, Isla, the wisdom that our children have for us, and how quick, like her imagery and her remembrances and what she was telling me in such a short period on the table was like, wow, I was in awe. I was just in awe of going, and you've allowed me to be part of this. I'm so blessed, because I just looked at her as the master, you know, and she's teaching me yet again. And this is the way forward. You know, this is how, when we all come together, there is no one person with the answer. As I said, you have it for you. And we're all here just to bounce off each other and reflect. And I think another way potentially of looking at the duality completion is that we always come back to energies, frequencies, and vibration. That's all anything is about. And so duality is simply a lowering, a slowering of frequencies and vibrations, where we were able to see and identify and polarize and have this more physical experience. And now we're quickening, and Gaia is speeding up, and we must speed with her. Her spin is faster, so heat rises. We're feeling the heat, we're feeling the shifts, we're in the movement with her. Time is quickening as she is. Yes, it is. And so as we go for that journey, as the vibration quickens and as the frequencies rise, then what was can't be anymore, because we enter a new timeline. We enter a new dimensional frequency or bandwidth or timeline. So if we go into a new timeline, a lot of what we knew falls away, or it just doesn't seem to exist anymore. which is why people will fall away or we pull away from people. And it's merely about energies. It's not about, oh, did I do something wrong, or I'm leaving you, or, if we're having those energies, we've still got some ego involved. But when we're coming from our heart and understanding, we know it's simply about vibration and frequencies. And it's about the alignment and the resolution and the reconciliation of those frequencies as to who we line up and match with. And anyone within a certain bandwidth will be able to play with us and we'll see them and merge with them. But anyone that isn't within the parameter of that particular frequency bandwidth cannot enter unless we go down to them, or unless they move through their fear, their lower base frequencies and limitations, which are fear-based and judgment, and they then rise into where we are. And that's all the game is. So while we might think bad things are happening out there, or if we do these things, bad things might come of that, there is always cause and effect, and there is always a consequence for the choice that you make. But it's how you identify with the consequence. If you're coming from fear, then you will have a fear-based outcome to that. But if you're coming from the grace and the dare to trust, and even if you don't know if you are trusting in the moment, but you just know in your heart of hearts, I just have to do this and I don't even know why, do it. Because that is your soul saying it is divine time now, and here's your moment of trust and great opportunity of potential. And regardless of which frequency you might be on, in that whole amazing moment of time, available is all the goodness of the miracles we spoke of earlier, all the joys, the love, the peace, the grace, the happiness, everything is now. And the only difference is why you can't see that is that your beliefs in the limitations, in the fear-based, the judgments, and whatever else is lowering your thought and feelings away from love is simply like that cloud that is shrouding you. You're just in a cloud of your own false beliefs that aren't of truth, and that, as I said earlier, that is simply what is love. So these false beliefs that we believed in, which have been a lot of lies and deceptions, that's just the journey of duality. We chose it. As we start to pierce through that, or as we start to embrace and we ask for the light to come into us, like a sun piercing the fog, that this is the self-created fog of our limitations, then we can see through that fog and we start to see the light that's existing. It never disappeared and it's never gone anywhere. The light's always been there, but we just shrouded it, clouded it by our denser thought patterns that we've chosen to remain in the cloud, as dense and as dark as that is, again, uniquely to each one of us. But the more we shift that cloud, that fog becomes less dense and lighter and brighter, and the more we see beyond it. And that's as simple as I can describe what this journey is. We're
and
just
really letting
moving
go
into
of
the
that
light.
lack mentality, like Marie was saying before around, you might notice that particular relationships or friendships may fall away. Again, it's an old philosophy that we need to hold on to anything because, again,
Well,
when
it's a
you
fear.
open up, because you open up to frequencies and then new people can come in. Like, think about how many times that you've ever said to yourself, oh, I'm so glad this came now, because 5 years ago I wouldn't have been ready. And, you understand why you didn't receive it in that moment, because you weren't ready. And so, like also Marie was saying, if it feels right in that moment to go and have that conversation or say whatever you needed to say, you're not going to be able to predict what that is going to create within you, what is that is going to free up within you, what is that may trigger in you. But again, it's about being open with love to receive whatever may come up around that as a cause and effect, as opposed to a consequence or condemning yourself or being condemned. Because again, if we raise that up, we can't condemn. There is no condemning. That's right. So if it feels right to share that, if it feels right to say it, then say it. Yeah. It's only going to enhance who you are, because if you're not saying it with love, then you get the cause and effect. and you learn pretty quickly how to then say it with love.
Yeah, very true.
It's like an accelerated course.
Yeah, and until you do it, you don't know. You can read as much as you like, but until you actually make the effort and try, however that is for you, you can't gain the wisdom of that for you.
Yeah.
And that feeling of what that means to you and how then you can adjust that to move forward.
Yeah.
You know, someone else's wisdom will never be yours. You can take from it, learn from it, work with it, but your wisdom is truly yours. And it's unique and it's wonderful. And it's there for you to rediscover again and to believe in it again. Absolutely.
And that's the same around miracles. You know, you can't take someone else's miracle.
No.
The miracles that and the abundance that is out there for you is already aligned to your soul. You're not taking someone else's by gaining that miracle.
Yeah.
It was always your miracle.
And I know too, and I'm sure many of you will align to this old thinking, because this was me, as being trained in a very heavy Catholic background and schooling in a Catholic background by nuns and priests. You know, to have a miracle, no, you don't deserve a miracle. Miracles are only for certain people. You know, you can't have a miracle. No, you have to be this sort of saintly, godly person who, you know, is deserving or lowly of life, has got nothing, you know, mainstream person with an income and a house and that. No, you don't deserve a miracle. So while we might think, that's silly, no, it's truth and it's really embedded. You know, scarcity, poverty consciousness is embedded. It's ancient. It's in your blood. It's in your genes. It's in your energy system and fields. You know, so these programs have to be addressed and have a listen again to what you're saying to yourself. If you're asking for a miracle, be honest, like I said earlier. Until we can be honest with what we're saying to us, nothing can change. And I know when I would think of, oh, yes, and Saint Germain came to me many, many years ago and he said to me, expect a miracle every day. Ask for a miracle every day. And I thought, oh, that's nice. And I thought instantly I knew, I felt, oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not good enough to have a miracle every day. You know, and I heard these thoughts and thought, but he said I could, but I know you can't. So here's my contradiction of going, but how can I, but I had to like go, oh, what the hell is going on here? And sit with everything that was going on here. And the people around me would always reflect that in my consciousness, as they do, you know, that they're your mirrors of reflection. Oh, don't be silly, as if you can have that, you know. But I had to learn to train myself, retrain myself away from these old thought programs into the belief of not only I can say these words and maybe believe them, but the ultimate is knowing that I am worthy to receive them. And until we believe that, we won't receive anything. But there are so many beliefs that we're blocking ourselves by that, again, this is the journey into those of what is our limitation, known and unknown, that is in ourselves, that's bleeding through into every creation that we make. And these are the contradictions that I allude to, that we're being asked to really start to feel our way into and to just embrace them, not to fear them, but to, it's almost like, well, what is in within me? What is there? What can I find that I don't need any longer? Make it fun. Like, what's lurking in a corner of my shadow somewhere that I haven't even been aware of, that I can go, aha, wow, let it go, you know. And the thing that you'll find with a lot of people really waking up or stuck, and I know, you know, again, in my husband's this great example, that when I was doing my awakening and I would say something to him going, you know, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, you know, dream big and I'm going to create this or whatever. And he'd just say, oh, well, you can't, because he was my mirror of my old masculine. Well, you can't do that, or you can't have that. How's that going to happen? That doesn't happen in society. This is the way it's done, blah, blah, blah. But my biggest, and if you want to use it, use these words, because this is my go-to in any time that I'm being challenged by someone, which is challenging myself, and a reminder to myself, where am I in my frequency, is to say, you know, when I'm hear someone say to me, no, you can't do that, I'll say, who said? No, you can't have that, why not? No, well, that's just the way society does that, who said? Where did that start? And I will just keep asking those questions to those people that reflect to me saying, you can't, you can't, you can't. I will keep saying, why not? And they have no answer. I'll tell you now, there is no answer. That's why they cannot answer, because there is no beginning or end. It was just a choice of a moment in program that everyone went, okay. And the consciousness of the collective in greater ways went, okay as well. So we're here to undo those okay moments into going, no more. Where do they block me? And what am I still aligning to that I can now go, wow, no thanks. This certainly is not going to help me move forward to where I want to be.
And if you take that and put it into lots of different topics, the world is endless. You know, like when I look at just different ways in which I've believed in finances, or where to put my finances or what to put them in. And I've challenged those over the last year. And it's come out with completely different answers just because I've questioned it on a different level. Or, towards the end of all of the significant hand washing that went on, I was like this, my daughter had said something to me and I was like, this is enough. Like, I can't go along aligning with this at her school anymore. And so I wrote her teacher a letter just simply saying, look, I just feel like it's time to really be the observer of what the other side of it that you're imprinting as you're encouraging the consistent hand washing could be. And again, like Marie said, I don't think I got a reply to that one, because it must have, but I never ever heard my daughter come back from school saying that she was forced to hand wash ever again. So just questioning where rules or certain guidelines have been put in place in our society, and why. Why are they there? Do you actually align to them? Is it something that aligns your soul with that? And it doesn't mean that you have to break a law or step outside the box in order for you to not have to align to it. There's so many different ways in which you then don't have to align to that frequency.
Yeah.
It's a frequency. It's still a frequency.
Yes. And everything is meant to be questioned. And if you're in a mentality or a collective consciousness, or you can see where you may have aligned to a belief where you felt you had to do something, and your heart is telling you otherwise, here's the contradiction again. Again, it's only ever do you ever do anything against your heart and your inner knowing because fear is present. And then you have to discern for yourself what that fear represents to you. Is it because I'll stand out? Is it because I won't be part of the group? Is it because I'll do something wrong? Is it because I'm not, towing the line? These are the contradictions again. They're everywhere. We don't realize until we begin to question. And most people, sadly, do not question. And this journey is all about the questioning. We have to question everything we've ever been told, because all of it's basically been a lie. As harsh as that sounds, it's the truth. Because where we're going into this beautiful fifth dimensional world, eventually there will be no rules. There will be no rules and regulations, because when we're in a trusting state and we're truly empathic, listening and coming from our heart space, there's no need for rules. We will all be open. We'll all be able to read each other, feel each other, know what's going on in each other. And so rules will be fruitless. They'll serve nothing. All they do is, again, create limitation and create fear.
Just imagine what it takes to get to that point, like imagine what it takes for us to become telepathic beings. And don't just sit there and span that out into the world and go, oh, well, we're not going to get there. But what can you do within your own soul to raise it to that consciousness where you could be telepathic? Maybe just start with that question to the self.
Just making any little headway, just any choice that you feel is right for you. This is where you're coming into alignment to you, listening to you and following that inner knowing that it's time for you to do it, regardless of the naysayers and the people immediately or beyond you, around you, who again are just the tests unto you. They're not actually going to block you. No one can touch you and no one can block you unless you believe it to be so. That's the other truth. But again, we believe, oh, well, it's that person or it's that situation, or I can't do that, I can't change, or I couldn't leave. And I know for years I've had many discussions with people where they've said to me, oh, but I couldn't leave. I was stuck there. I couldn't go here. I was in a discussion that, if I'd left. I said, why couldn't you? Oh, but you don't understand. I couldn't walk away then. Why not? And it's not me saying you're wrong in your actions when I keep questioning them. My point always, and my guidance in that moment, is to saying, what is the true belief and wording and thought system in your being at the moment that you're telling yourself that you are stuck in that moment? Because you're never stuck unless you believe you are. That's the key. And that's the questioning, and not to another always, but to the self. Why am I doing this? Why have I allowed this? Who said it had to be like this? Why have I always towed that line? Why did I let that happen? Why? These are my questions. These are just all the questions I've ever asked myself and more over the years, until I broke it down to say, my God, what the hell was I thinking? Where was I? And not, I'm damning myself at first, yeah, but then I woke up to that too. But to go, you've always got a choice. It comes back to that moment that we always have a choice. We choose in this wonderful throat chakra. That's the choice chakra in combination with all of them. But this is where we truly decide to voice, to speak, to act, to do. And we always have that opportunity to do that. And if we are making those excuses around us, that's what I want us to concentrate on now, because they won't cut it any longer.
And also, watching who you then seek out to chat to about whatever's coming up for you as well. Because like Marie said, these are both the way that her and I interrogate ourselves about these things.
Nicely.
Well, yeah. And then we also, that's also why whenever I'm just in a different place and maybe Marie and I are having a chat, why it's still pleasant for me to have a chat with her, because she's never going to be like, what that happened to you, or she'll always see the light. And in truth, I don't ever speak to anyone that, like, when I'm not in my 100% light, I don't talk to anyone about anything unless I know that they're going to then hold that light in the truest, highest light, and ask the hard questions and speak the truth. I don't want dilly-dallying. So again, remember that this comes full circle back into our walking your talk. You can discern when someone's walking their talk these days very easily. And so if you are actually desiring or needing that support, reach out to the ones that are in walking their talk, so that they're not going to go into any story. That alignment to story, it's a little bit of a drain back down into the lower vibrations. And so what can you do to bring yourself out of story, perhaps, is the question to ask yourself as well. It's a really simple way to go, oh yeah, I'm aligning to something. And I was having this conversation with one of my friends the other day, because we've all seen different practitioners in our time, etc. But there's one thing that I do as a practitioner, if I'm seeing especially people who know each other, or like, family members, or sisters, or husband and wives, and that is that whenever they're sharing any story that may include that other person that I too see, it's, the highest frequency for me to be in, again, is to not go at anything about that person. It's, what did that raise in you when that person did it? What did that raise in you when that person said something? Because again, remember that any form of judgment around another, any form of like buying into just one side of a story, is still you aligning to a frequency. And to me, that's not really doing my job. And so that's where I don't align with when labels get presented. Like, if there's plenty of my clients who might come to me and they might go, I was seeing a therapist and they were saying that my wife was a narcissist. how did that therapist know that?
Yeah.
How is that therapist able to even physically say that? You know, so again, we're really stepping out of these paradigms of projection, these paradigms where just because someone's in our life that they have the ability to do anything to us. Coming back into full circle of this parallel that I've been really working with, the forgiveness and condemnation. Again, if you just close your eyes for a moment and allow all the people that you still probably haven't forgiven on another layer to come forth, as you forgive them this round, you'll realize on another level that it was still your condemnation that caused the whole cycle of unforgiveness in the first place. You were the one that thought that there was something going on in the first place. Because it's still your story, it's still your stuff.
Yeah, it hasn't been shifted.
Yeah,
absolutely. And well, we're on this, and this might be enough for everybody too, but in this movement too, which as we're evolving and growing, we're healing. We're healing and raising parts of ourselves. And while it's a word that, again, healing we do, but watch how we use our words in the healing of, I'm healing all this darkness and all this stuff in this story, because there can be the healing that we talk about, as you've alluded to there in the story time. And this is, me, I'm all for this year, it's time to drop the stories. We can't heal, we can't shift, we can't expand until we let the old stories go that are still supposedly wrapping around in trauma bands or wrapping us up in however we perceive our victim, our wound, and whatever. And as we walk along this journey, we can only get so far until we recognize that they are bondage holding us back. They are part of our consciousness. They are creations of us that we created in ego, in lower aspects, in lower vibrational parts of ourselves that, again, hold us back on the journey forward. And we will all reach a point where it's, again, small or big, in the recognition where we have to let someone go. And it may be that you just have to let that person go who you've always been with, that supported your wound. And they played the sympathy role for you. They played the poor victim for you. They gave you everything you needed to keep that storyline going. But in the true sense of the word healing, where the healing is, I wish to expand and move beyond all of my limitations and bondage, is the healing becomes into the truth of who I am, that was part of my illusion, that was part of then. But if I'm moving forward, they can't come with me. And so anyone that's playing that game for you, attached to that, who still wants to be part of their own game, because they've usually got the same mirrors happening and they've got the same vibrational pattern, that's how you line up. If they continue to play the game, you always have the choice, do I go back to the game or do I move beyond? And that's the shift in the vibration or pattern, where one may have to stay behind and you rise. And you can go backwards and forwards until you get used to where you want to sit. That's okay. You can play your game however you want, but true expansion, these old stories must be going. They have to go, because they've never served you. They never will. They are the past. And again, you have a choice. But you cannot be the evolved being that you may want to be or you're espousing to be if you're still wanting to remain stuck in the past. You'll instantly fall back into the pattern straight away. Or your test will be, these people will try to drag you back into the world, because no one likes shift. It's uncomfortable to shift. It creates discomfort for all that was all nice little package, and everyone was together and it was happy days and we could all bitch and carry on about our stuff and tell each other, oh no, but mine was worse. Oh no, but you didn't do it like me. Oh, but my pain was better than yours. And we have these little wound groups. Or as you step out of them, well, that changes the dynamic. So they will instantly try to keep it together. And so this is the test to the pullback, and it's your test about the choice of where you want to be or not. And there must be a change. There has to be a shift. It can't all be roses, glories, and glasses and purity and wonderful. We have to go through our stuff, but in the stuff we gain the wisdom and the understanding. And through that process, we then turn to see not only find the compassion, the divine feminine within us to say, wow, I see where I was and I can see where I've been, and wow, how that isn't feeling me now. I choose not to be there. And then you look at these beautiful beings and you see them as the grand teachers. You see them as these incredible beings, again, offering you that vantage point of where you don't want to be. But not only where you don't want to be, but in your compassion, you now have the ability to hold compassion and love for them until they get to see their journey. And that's what the path's about. And the more we hold compassion for ourselves, the more we can hold it for the world and for our greater beings all around us. And that's where we're being asked to go and really move toward in 2023 and beyond.
So really use this time, like it is still there's something around this time of year that creates a restlessness in a lot of people because they don't know what to do with the stillness. Aim to embrace that stillness that's available right now. It is a slower time. Embrace that. Do whatever needs to do. Sometimes when I'm really about to move into a stillness point, which I did the other day, I remember I went from my back door looking out because I was like, what's today about? And I was just looking out into my garden, and then I went to the front door and I'm like, what are we meant to be doing today? And that day I got knocked out, not once, not twice, but 3 times. When I talk about being knocked out, it means that I sit down somewhere and all of a sudden my eyes are shut and I'm off somewhere else. And that happened to me in 3 different intervals that day. And I knew, my daughter was busting at the seams to go for a paddleboard that day, and I was like, I can't. Even my dog, P.S. Addie's back, even my dogs were like sitting there. Skylar was like wanting up and into the world, and I'm like, we can't today. We can't, everyone. We're going to have to learn how to be still right now. And it was just so important. And by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we were all so aligned, and so it was just phenomenal. So yes, sometimes it's really hard to move beyond the restlessness and come into the stillness, but know that on the day where you are feeling really restless, there's an opportunity for a really massive shift if you can sink into the stillness within that day.
Yeah, nicely said. Yeah. And I'd love to, I think, are you ready, Nilly, to finish?
I'm done.
Yeah, I feel that too. But I'd love to just finalize complete on these 2 little stories, because, while we talk about what we're talking about, there's like I said, there's incredible joy and wonderfulness, and the energies are so incredible right now that as we move through our stuff, the beauty and the ability to create what we want is just 1,000-fold now, and it's just going to increase. So these amazing energies are present too. So it's not all like, oh, heavy duty stuff, but we can't just all get there and have joy and beauty with our shadow present. But in doing that work with yourself, I've always looked to children and animals, because they don't have logic and they don't have judgment. They just read your energy, and they'll always tell you how you are and where your energy's at. So I had these 2 great moments. One was with a little girl, and it was just before Christmas, and I went to the shops. And I felt great. I'd done a big clearing, big shift, and I just knew my heart was pumping. I could feel me pumping the light, and that was my intention as well. And I think I was in Kmart somewhere, Robina. And I was just waiting for a friend of mine, and she was getting photos, and I was just standing there with her little one in the pram, and I'm just pushing him and having a nice time with him. And then there was this little girl, and she was she looked of an islander. She had the most beautiful black curly hair, and it was in these little pigtails. She was about 3, and she just came out of nowhere, and she just stood before me in the pram, and I thought, oh, she's come to see, the little one I was looking after. And I just sort of smiled at her and looked at her, and she's looking at him, and they kind of sort of, and then didn't really have anything to do with each other. And she just stood there, and then she just stared at me. And I just smiled and I said, hello. I spoke physically to her to begin with, hello. And then Dad appeared, obviously. and she just stood there, and I was saying, how are you? And she wouldn't speak. And I said, that's okay, And Dad said, oh, she gets a bit shy with people. I said, that's okay. She doesn't have to speak. It's all right. I said, I'll talk to her through my mind, but I don't care. I'm saying it. And he looked at me, and she just smiled with that. And so we were just talking with our mind. And she was just like beaming, and we're just having this little conversation. And I was just telling her how beautiful she was, and thank you so much for coming and brightening my day. And you've just made my day. And she was just beaming and glowing. And then Dad was saying, okay, say goodbye to the lady, you know, and I'm saying, bye, thank you for coming. And she was going off. She kept turning around and she kept turning, and then she let his hand go and she kept coming back, and she'd stand in front of me. And I'd say, oh, you're back again. And she was still saying nothing but just smiling. And it was like we were just feeding each other love. I could just feel the love that we were just pumping through this door. And then Dad came back going, you know, come on, we have to go. And then Mum appeared with her pram. And they're both looking at me, and I said, oh, you know, I'm just here, I'm not doing anything type thing. And they said, come on, you know. And then she was wandering off, and she kept pulling her hand back. She kept coming back. I don't know how many times. I thought it was the funniest thing. And Dad was then looking at me like, why is she doing this? Like, why does she keep coming back to you? Like, you're just someone random in the shop. And I just said, she knows me in another way. We just know each other on a different level. And he's looking at me quite weirdly, and I thought, I'm just telling the truth. And she's still smiling. Anyway, and then I said to her, you know, because I could see they wanted to go, and I said, I think it's time for you to go. And it's okay, but thank you so much for coming. I've so enjoyed our time together. And she's just like these eyes beaming this smile. Then she walks away, and she's pulling the whole time. He's sort of pulling her a little bit, but she's walking in, and she's looking back at me the whole time. I'm thinking, this is astonishing. And then she stopped. She pulled his hand away again for the last time. And he's turned to look at her, and she's turned to me, and she's just gone. And she just blew me this kiss. And I just went, thank you. And then she was happy to leave. And it was just, I don't know, it seemed like forever we were having this encounter. Two unknown souls that knew each other. And Dad watched, and their mum had to watch. They watched the whole thing, and I could see they were bewildered, but at the same time, like amazed. And here's this beautiful little energy. So that was my first one. And then the other day I was at a friend's house, and as we're sitting on the back near the end, this magpie just arrived on the back veranda. And so it walked past my friend, and I thought, oh, you know, well, he's probably giving it some food. And then it's made its way all around in between myself, my husband and myself, where we were sitting. Anyway, and it was just under me, and then I started talking to the magpie, and I was dropping it a few crumbs, and it just sat there. It was the most tame magpie I've ever seen. And I said, oh, does he come all the time? And they said, no. And I said, oh, he's very tame. And he stayed and stayed and stayed. And then my husband actually said, oh, he's sort of trapped. He won't get out. And I said, there he is. He's not trapped. He wants to be here. He's not trapped at all. Let that go. Just he'll walk out when he's ready. And he did. Eventually he walked out. Didn't think twice. He was gone. We were leaving the house. I said goodbye. And next thing, he turned up right beside me as I'm leaving. And I went, oh, you're back. And he looked up at me like absolute eye-to-eye connection. I knew then, you have come to say hello to me. You are part of whatever you've come to do with me. And he stopped and he looked at me, eye to eyes. And I just said to him, thanks for coming. Did you enjoy your food? Blah, blah, blah. Had a chat. And then, you know, my husband saying, come on, we've got to go, we've got to go. I'm saying, yeah, okay. So I said, you know, goodbye to them again, and said goodbye to Maggie and said, thanks for coming. If you've got any messages, let me know, wherever you want me to. He literally followed me. He walked beside me onto the road. He walked with me. And then I realized what was happening, and I stopped and I went, oh, you're coming with me. My friends are laughing, going, he's following you. And I said, I know. And I just said to him, well, where do you want me to go? Like, do you want me to go somewhere? And he was looking at me like, and I didn't get a message of what he was saying to do. And I just said, do you want to come with me? And then he went and put his head forward. And I said, well, I'm going around here. And he walked literally all the way up the hill, around the side, and to the car, to my door. I kid you not. This magpie was walking beside me all the way. And we got to the car door, and I said to it, all I can offer is that you get in. And my husband's in the car, turning the engine on, going, he can't get in the car. And I said, well, if he wants to get in, he can get in. And I opened the door, and he stood there, and he's gone right up to the door. And I thought, he's going to jump in. Are you kidding me? And they're trying to look, my friends from over the distance, going, where is he? I said, he's here at the car. And then he just sat there, and I said, up to you. And Elbo's going in the car. And I just went, I didn't know what to do then, because is he going to get in or not? And he just stood there. Then he was looking at me, and I said, it's your call. And then he toddled back, and then he was behind the car, but he just wouldn't leave. And I said, I've got to go now, so come and see me wherever I am. And I got in the car, And then we drove off, and I don't know what happened to him, but it was the most amazing experience that I thought, well, here I am again in the knowing that my energies are okay, that this little being wanted to connect in and wanted to come with me and wanted to be with me. And I truly believe if I'd been on my own, I reckon I would have got him in the car. But keep an eye out for these beautiful beings that are coming back to validate where you're at and the work that you're doing. And I know I've been doing some big work there to open my heart.
And that's been my journey with Addie too. So, you know, the whole crescendo into becoming a foster caregiver, and then knowing that that was like a journey, and then listening every day to whether or not, you know, I was needed in any other way. And then Addie just started calling me a couple of days before we ended up picking her up, and she was just going, okay, are we done now? Can we get on with things? And I just knew that she had to come home. And she's just, the more that I'm getting to know her on a new level, the more that I understand exactly why she's here, how she's come into our life, why she's like perfect in every way. And she's got the most incredible markings on her tail, like that just show me that she's another worldly. She's come in this incarnation to raise in the light and to be in the light in whatever capacity. And story for another time then.
Beautiful. Well, welcome home, Addie.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, we might bid you adieu and say thank you for your support over the last few months. We're planning to continue these hubs if you want us to. And yeah, into the new year when things start to kick in, please, if you've got those questions, shoot them to us. We've got a couple that are interested in some work with the chakra aspects and some sound stuff, which we'll look at. But anything that you'd like us to talk about, or if you've got questions, we're happy to do that Q&A episode 2 or Q&A Zoom that who's interested can jump on and we'll sit with you and answer whatever we can. But it's all about us being here. We're here from our hearts. We're here to help. We're here to guide, to give you whatever we've walked through to save you, to help you. We're here, and we're doing it from the grace of our love and the best of our beingness that we can, without anything else.
Why some episodes will be weekly and other episodes might be a bit longer, because if it doesn't align, we don't do it at the end. So we're here though, and we are both, like, it's not like we've put the hub on our agenda for 2023. It's just going to continue to unfold until it evolves into anything else or it changes. All we're doing is listening to what we're meant to be here for.
And what we're meant to be offering.
And we absolutely adore just knowing that you guys are listening and loving it. And,
thank you so much for your wonderful comments.
We love it. Yeah. And we
all need to feel appreciated sometimes. I'll own that.
Well, it's for me, it's more about like going, oh, you listen. Oh, what do you think? You know, like, and then hearing what they think about it. And, you know, a lot of the comments are like, well, you know, as individuals, you guys are pretty cool as it is, and then put you in a room together and it's just next level. So I love that feedback that, you know, people are giving on that level, because it is encouraging us to know that, you know, it's a needed thing.
And what you get is what you see. This is how we talk to each other anyway, and you know, we just bounce off each other and we say our truths
and everything.
It is what it is.
It is.
So we'll see you in 23.
Yes, we will, and enjoy the last hours of
22.
The so-called timeline of 2022.
Yeah, I'm ready for the jump. Whatever that be.
Yeah. And we'll see you at the next episode.
Yeah. Okay. Happy New Year to everybody, and we'll see you in an even better year. And looking forward to it. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.